All right, let's dive into Aurionpro Solutions Ltd. We've got their financials, earnings calls, and annual reports, and this company's been on a tear. 3 years of 30% plus growth.
Wow.
An AI company acquisition they called a game changer. And they're the only ones in India with a special EMV-certified card reader for transit systems. So some serious tech here. By the end of this, you'll understand their business model, history, financials, and whether their leadership inspires confidence. Ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, so let's rewind and trace Aurionpro's evolution. I noticed a push towards building their IP, their own products, as a differentiator.
Yeah.
What's fascinating is how this IP strategy aligns with their growth. When you compare Aurionpro to their peers, it's clear this approach is working. They're not just keeping pace, they're setting it.
Yeah.
And their ambition doesn't stop there. Aurionpro has this bold vision, becoming a top 3 global player in their verticals. Based on what we see, is that a realistic goal?
It's ambitious, but not out of the question. They've shown consistent growth and a sharp understanding of trends, like AI and cloud computing. The real test will be their execution, especially as they expand into new markets.
Right. Okay, let's talk numbers. Their financials are impressive. Revenue, EBITDA, and PAT are all showing incredible growth. Just for those who might not be familiar, EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. It gives us a picture of a company's operating profitability. And PAT, that's profit after tax, the actual profit after all expenses and taxes. Both are looking very healthy for Aurionpro.
Yeah, very healthy.
Impressive. But we know past performance isn't a crystal ball. What key figures or ratios should we be looking at to understand these numbers? What jumps out at you?
Well, one metric that stands out is DSO, days sales outstanding. It tells us how long it takes Aurionpro to collect payments from customers.
So a rising DSO.
That's
Be
good.
your red flag? Is that what we're seeing?
Yes, DSO has increased, which, might raise some eyebrows. But the company attributes this to specific projects with delayed payments. They're actively working to improve it.
Okay. But how confident are we that those payments will come through? That's something to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. We also need to consider their R&D spending. They're investing heavily, which always carries a certain level of risk.
Right. They're targeting a 25% return on capital, though. That suggests they're being strategic with these investments, not just throwing money at innovation. They're looking for tangible returns.
Yeah.
So it's not just spending, it's about smart spending.
Yeah.
That's a good sign. And let's not forget their acquisitions. How have those moves contributed to their performance?
Acquisitions have definitely played a role in their growth. For example, they acquired Interactive Communication, which brought in additional statement services and expanded their payment offerings. We see the impact of these acquisitions reflected in the revenue and EBITDA numbers.
Okay. The company's projecting continued growth and similar profit margins in the coming year. What factors could make or break these projections? What do you see as the biggest roadblocks or opportunities?
Well, their revenue mix will be a key factor. Aurionpro operates across different segments, and the performance of each impacts overall earnings and cash flow.
Makes sense.
For example, they anticipate faster growth in their banking segment compared to their technology innovation group, their TIG. Understanding each segment is crucial for assessing future prospects.
Right. Are there any segments that look particularly promising or concerning?
The banking segment stands out. It aligns with their expertise in financial technology and offers significant growth potential, especially with the rising adoption of digital banking solutions.
Okay, now let's talk about the elephant in the room, AI. Aurionpro seemed to be betting big on this, especially after acquiring Aria.ai. What was so special about Aria.ai? Was it just about getting an AI engine, or is there more to it?
Aria.ai wasn't just any AI company. They specialized in building AI models that can analyze vast amounts of data to detect fraud and assess risk, particularly in financial transactions.
So a very specific application.
Yes, and this is a game changer for Aurionpro's clients, mainly banks and financial institutions.
So it's not just about having AI, it's about having the right AI, solving a specific problem for their market.
Exactly. It gives them a competitive edge by offering solutions that address their clients' pain points, leading to increased efficiency, reduced losses, and potentially access to new markets.
Okay, here's where it gets interesting. They're also entering the online payment aggregator business. It's a bold move, considering the competition.
Yeah.
What makes them think they can carve out a niche?
It is a crowded space. However, Aurionpro isn't trying to be another generic payment gateway. Their strategy seems to be leveraging their existing expertise in financial technology, particularly their strength in secure transactions.
So they're not going head-to-head with the giants. Instead, they're targeting specific opportunities where they can leverage their strengths. That's a more focused approach.
Precisely. They're building upon existing relationships with banks and financial institutions and integrating their payment solutions into their existing product suite. It's a more targeted strategic approach, aiming for sustainable, profitable growth rather than just chasing market share.
Okay, makes sense. All of this hinges on execution, though, which brings us to management confidence. What's your take on the leadership team? Do they inspire confidence? Specifically, the CEO, Ashish Rai. What's your impression of him?
From what I've gathered, Ashish Rai appears to have a clear vision and a strong understanding of the industry. He's emphasized building a robust sales channel, forging strategic partnerships, and investing heavily in R&D. His approach to acquisitions suggests a thoughtful strategy, focused on finding the right fit, not just growth for growth's sake.
His background at FIS definitely gives him credibility, and his emphasis on R&D aligns with what we've seen in their financials. But beyond the numbers, what are Aurionpro's competitive moats? What sets them apart?
Well, their IP-led product portfolio is a major differentiator. They've invested heavily in developing unique solutions, like that EMV-certified card reader for transit systems, which gives them a significant edge in that niche market.
It's a niche segment, but they're clearly aiming to dominate it. And their strategy of combining software with payments is a smart way to build high-margin businesses. Is this a common strategy?
Not necessarily. Many companies focus on either software or payments. Aurionpro's approach of integrating both allows them to create more comprehensive solutions for their clients, which translates into higher margins and stronger customer loyalty.
Okay, interesting. We also can't overlook strong customer relationships. It seems like Aurionpro has a loyal client base thanks to their focus on niche segments and the high switching costs associated with their software. This customer loyalty is a valuable asset that contributes to their stability and growth.
Absolutely.
All right, let's pause and run through a fundamental checklist. First up, profitability. They've been consistently profitable with healthy margins, so that's a check mark. Next, operating dynamics. Their DSO has been a bit of a concern, but they're addressing it. And their R&D spending, while significant, seems strategic. So on balance, their operating dynamics seem solid.
Agreed.
Then we have cash flow and debt, with a strong cash position, and a focus on generating returns from investments. They seem to be managing their finances prudently. Another check mark.
Yeah, I'd say so.
And finally, growth potential. Given their track record, leadership, and investments, I'd say their growth potential is significant. They're definitely a company to watch. But let's not stop there. We also need to evaluate their management team. Moving on to our management checklist. First, financial discipline. They've demonstrated a commitment to generating returns and managing debt responsibly. So far, so good.
Yeah, looks good.
Next, negative news. We haven't uncovered any major red flags or scandals. Of course, it's always good to dig deeper. But on the surface, their reputation seems clean.
Right.
And finally, related party transactions. This is always something to keep an eye on. They've mentioned some, but they've been transparent and obtained shareholder approval where necessary. It's important to maintain this transparency as they grow.
I agree.
It's all about good governance and accountability. Investors need to feel confident that management is acting in everyone's best interests.
Absolutely.
Okay, big picture. It sounds like Aurionpro is ticking a lot of boxes. They've got a clear strategy, they're financially sound, and their leadership seems to be on point. But this wouldn't be a deep dive if we didn't dig a little deeper, right?
Hey, you know me too well. There are always nuances that can give us even more insight. For example, in their earnings call, Ashish Rai discussed their focus on building a strong sales channel and forging key partnerships. This suggests they understand that growth isn't just about products. It's about getting those products in front of the right customers.
Right, distribution is key. And they're not just relying on organic growth either. Their acquisition strategy seems carefully considered, aimed at filling gaps and expanding their market reach. And of course, there's the Aria.ai acquisition, which gives them that powerful AI engine.
Yes.
Integrate into their existing products.
It's a classic example of buy versus build. Sometimes it makes more sense to acquire a company that already have the technology and expertise you need.
Right, rather than trying to develop it all yourself.
Exactly.
Speaking of technology, it's interesting how Aurionpro leverages partnerships to enhance its offerings. They've teamed up with major players like MasterCard and Visa to expand their reach in the transit payment segment. Collaborations like this can be incredibly valuable. especially in a rapidly evolving industry. They allow companies to tap into each other's strengths and accelerate innovation. Aurionpro seems to be playing the partnership game very well.
Yeah, they seem to be doing a good job with that.
All right, let's shift gears again and talk about something that stood out to me. Their focus on niche segments. It seems like they're deliberately choosing to specialize, rather than trying to be everything to everyone. For example, their EMV-certified card reader. It's specifically designed for transit systems. That's a smart strategy, especially for a company of their size. By focusing on niche markets, they can develop deep expertise and build strong relationships with key customers. It's easier to become a dominant player in a smaller pond.
Exactly.
Makes sense. And it looks like they're applying the same philosophy to their expansion into the online payment aggregator business. They're not trying to compete head-on. They're looking for specific opportunities where they can leverage their strengths. It's a more targeted, strategic approach.
Yeah.
And it ties back to what we were discussing earlier about their commitment to sustainable, profitable growth. They're not chasing every shiny object. They're making calculated decisions about where to invest their resources.
It's a disciplined approach.
Which brings us to our final big question, the big so what. We've spent this whole time exploring Aurionpro, but what does it all mean for you, the listener? Why should you care?
Well, if you're looking for a company that's on the move, innovating, growing, showing strong financial performance, Aurionpro is definitely worth paying attention to.
Okay.
They're a potential investment opportunity, a potential partner, a potential competitor, or simply a case study in building a successful technology business. In a rapidly changing world, they're a reminder that even in a crowded market, there's always room for companies that differentiate themselves, focus on their strengths, and execute their strategy effectively.
I like that.
And they're a company that's embracing technology, particularly AI, to create new opportunities and solve real-world problems. They're a reminder that the future of business is digital, and companies that adapt and innovate will thrive.
So as you can see, we've really unearthed some key insights about Aurionpro today, but as with any good deep dive, it leaves us with more to explore.
One thing that keeps coming up is Aurionpro's global aspirations. As they expand, how do they plan to maintain their focus and that unique value proposition?
That's the challenge, right? Growth can be a double-edged sword. It opens up opportunities, but it can also lead to a loss of focus, especially as companies navigate different markets and cultural landscapes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Aurionpro needs to find that balance. Can they scale their operations without diluting what made them successful?
That's the key question. Their leadership seems aware of this challenge, though. Ashish Rai has talked about the importance of maintaining a consistent culture and values, even as they grow. He's also emphasized building a strong leadership team with diverse perspectives to guide their global expansion.
So they're not just thinking about market share, they're thinking about how to grow strategically and sustainably. That's a good sign.
It is. It shows a maturity in their thinking. It's also worth noting that Aurionpro has chosen to focus on specific regions for expansion, primarily Southeast Asia and the Middle East. They're not just spreading themselves thin. They're targeting markets where they see a strong fit for their solutions.
Okay, so a more targeted approach.
Exactly. And they're leveraging partnerships to gain a foothold in these new markets. For example, they've partnered with local banks and financial institutions in Southeast Asia to integrate their payment solutions into those institutions' existing systems.
Smart. It allows them to tap into local expertise and networks, reducing the risks of entering unfamiliar markets.
Absolutely.
And it ties back to that buy versus build strategy we discussed. Partnerships can be a more agile way to expand globally than trying to build everything in-house.
Right. It's a faster and often more efficient way to scale.
It's like they're building a global network, not just a global presence.
Exactly. It's about creating an ecosystem where their solutions can thrive, leveraging local partnerships and expertise to adapt to specific market needs.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now let's circle back to their technology for a moment. We talked about their EMV-certified card reader for transit systems. It's a niche product, but it seems like they've turned that niche into a competitive advantage. What's the story there?
Well, this card reader was a game changer for them. It was the first of its kind in India, and it opened up a whole new market in the transit payment segment. It was a perfect example of how focusing on a specific problem and developing a unique solution can lead to significant success.
And they didn't stop there, right? They've continued to innovate in the transit payment space, partnering with MasterCard and Visa to expand their reach.
They've been very strategic about it.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about how they've positioned it within a larger ecosystem. leveraging partnerships to create a dominant position in that niche.
Exactly. And it speaks to their agility as a company. They're not afraid to explore new markets, adapt their technology to different contexts, and partner with others to achieve their goals.
This agility is crucial in the technology sector. Things move so quickly. Companies that can adapt and innovate will thrive, while those that cling to outdated models will fall behind.
I couldn't agree more.
Aurionpro seems to understand this. They're constantly evolving, exploring new technologies, looking for ways to stay ahead of the curve. Their investment in AI is a prime example of this.
It is. They're clearly betting on the future.
And their move into the online payment aggregator business is another indication. They're not content to rest on their laurels. They're looking for new opportunities to grow.
It's a smart move, but also a risky one. The payment aggregator market is crowded. There are established players with significant market share.
Right, it's a competitive space.
It is. But Aurionpro is approaching this new venture strategically. They're leveraging their existing expertise, their strong customer relationships, and their focus on secure transactions to differentiate themselves in the market.
So they're not trying to be everything to everyone. They're targeting specific niches where they can add value.
Precisely. It's about building a sustainable business.
And that ties back to their focus on profitable growth. Their success will depend on their execution.
Of course.
But their track record suggests they understand what it takes to compete.
Yeah, they've got a good track record.
So what are your final takeaways from this deep dive? What's the big picture message?
Well, I think Aurionpro is a company that's firing on all cylinders. They've got impressive financials, a clear strategy, a strong leadership team, and a unique value proposition. They're not just riding the wave of digital transformation. They're actively shaping it.
That's a great way to put it.
They're a reminder that even in a fast-paced industry, it's possible to achieve sustainable growth by focusing on your strengths, building strong relationships, and making smart decisions.
It's a good reminder for all of us.
It is. They're not without risks, of course. Global expansion is always challenging, and competition is fierce.
True.
But they've demonstrated a willingness to adapt, to innovate, and to take calculated risks.
And that's what makes them exciting to watch.
It is. They're a company that's pushing boundaries and defying expectations. Whether they achieve their ambitious goals remains to be seen, but they're certainly making a mark on the industry.
They're definitely a company to watch.
Absolutely.
And it makes them a fascinating case study. For anyone interested in building a successful technology business,
I completely agree.
they're a company worth paying attention to.
For sure. And it's that ambition. That leads to our final question. What should our listener take away from this?
The so what factor.
Exactly. Aurionpro's story is a reminder that innovation doesn't always come from those big Silicon Valley giants.
Right, it can come from anywhere.
Yeah. They've proven that a company with focus, a smart strategy, and a willingness to embrace new tech can make waves even in a crowded market.
That's a good story.
It is. It should inspire anyone who's ever felt like the little guy, up against these huge companies. Aurionpro shows that with the right approach, you can compete and even outnumber them.
David and Goliath.
Yeah.
They've also highlighted something important. Understanding not just what a company does, but how they do it. Their focus on IP, the acquisitions, the partnerships, their approach to global expansion. It all paints a picture of a company building a sustainable future.
Yeah, they're thinking long-term.
This has been fascinating. But like any good deep dive, it leaves us with more to think about. Aurionpro is clearly on the move. But the big question is, can they keep this momentum going? As they scale and expand globally, can they stay agile and keep that unique value proposition?
That's the challenge for a lot of successful companies. Can they grow without losing what made them successful in the first place?
It's a tough balance.
It is.
Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, Aurionpro is a company worth keeping an eye on.
Absolutely.
Their journey is a testament to innovation, to strategic thinking, and a commitment to excellence. And who knows, maybe their story will inspire you to take a deep dive into your own ventures, challenge assumptions, and explore new possibilities.
That's what it's all about.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into Aurionpro Solutions Ltd. Check out the show notes for links to all the sources we talked about. We want to hear your thoughts. So connect with us on social media or send us a message. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those deep dives going.
It's been a pleasure.
As always.
Until next time.
Stay curious.